Everyone thought that after the liberation of Kherson, Ukraine will slow down, but no. Because reportedly, Ukrainian forces already crossed the Dnipro river. At the same time, it looks like that some Ukrainians were able to land in Kinburg speed, which will allow them to approach Russians from behind. And seeing all of this, Russians started retreating even deeper into the south, specifically into the next major city, Melitopol. But more about all of this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. And let's go straight to the point and see some most recent footage and talk about the situation in the south. And in this first heartwarming video from one of Kherson's settlements, we can see a Ukrainian soldier approaching his own babushka, who he had just recently liberated. Next is the video from Kherson city itself, where we can see the local residents celebrating the liberation for several days straight. And then right here, we can see Ukrainian National Police, which is once again operational in Kherson city. In addition to that, the President of Ukraine, Vladimir Zelensky, visited Kherson recently and participated in flag raise ceremony. And I mean, the city has been liberated only 3 days ago, and the President is already visiting it and speaking with its residents, instead of just being in his underground bunker. And Russians were obviously very dissatisfied with this event. What they said is that they do not approve the visit of the President of Ukraine on the territory of Russia. And I mean, yeah, that's right, I guess. But okay, because when Russians were retreating from Kherson, they left many presents to Ukrainians, both good and bad ones. Right here, for example, we can see a cell tower being destroyed in an attempt of Russians to disrupt the communications in the region. And then, as you already know it, after Russians completed their withdrawal, they destroyed the Antonovsky bridge. And in this extended video, we can see a bird's eye view of the bridge, which practically shows us that it is completely unusable along with its pontoons. But one good thing about this is that Ukrainians tied their flag to this bridge, which pretty much put an end to the saga of notorious Antonovsky bridge. And another good thing about Russian withdrawal is that they left a lot of military equipment, vehicles and ammunition as a present to Ukrainians. As you can see from this video, this is just 1 out of 5 abandoned warehouses full of military equipment. And in addition to that, according to Alexei Arestovich, Ukrainians were able to seize approximately 50 military vehicles and around a dozen air defense systems, which are much needed for Ukraine at this stage of war. But the biggest event for today is that reportedly Russians started to retreat already from the left side of Dnipro river. And right now I will tell you exactly what made them do this. And I think it is pretty obvious that in the next several days there will be a lot of news and events coming to us from the south. And if you don't want to miss these updates, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. You can also follow me on Instagram and send me a message and I will reply to you. Alright, let's get back to withdrawal of Russians from the left side of Dnipro river. First of all, the Russian authorities moved the capital of Kherson region from Kherson city to Khenechensk. And most likely the reason they did it is so that they can say, no, Ukrainians were not able to retake Kherson. And to confirm this assumption, just take a look how far this new capital is from the borders of the front line. And at the same time, it is right next to the border with Crimea and to the border with Zaporozhye region. So it's like as long as Russia controls Khenechensk, they will be able to tell their Z patriots that Russia has a full control over Kherson region. Even when Ukraine liberates 95% of the region, which to be honest will happen way sooner than expected. The next thing, if you remember from my previous video, the main concentration of Russian forces and their military equipment last week was located in Oleshki. And right now, reportedly, Russians are actively relocating these formations to Chaplinka. And they come both from Kherson city direction as well as Kakhovka, which pretty much means that they started departing from extremely logistically important Kakhovka as well. But to be honest, this relocation to Chaplinka will not help Russians. Because as you can see from this map, even existing HIMARS in Ukraine can already reach this settlement. Ukraine does not even need this extended range HIMARS, or at least not yet. And then right here we have extremely interesting video where we can see Ukrainians allegedly crossing Dnipro river from Achakiv to Kinburg Spit. This video was presented to us by the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, and in case they are successful, they will be able to fully liberate the rest of Mykolaiv region. And after this, Ukrainians will obviously continue advancing and try to approach Russians from behind, which once again kinda confirms the fact that the reason why Russians started retreating from Oleshki is to avoid this encirclement. And speaking about Oleshki, according both to the mayor of the city, Yevgen Rishuk, and Alexei Arestovich, Russians indeed started withdrawing from this settlement. And as a result, it looks like that this is the very first settlement on the left side of Dnipro river which has been liberated by Ukrainians. And in addition to that, we have several reports about the increase in combat activities in Hola Pristan. So yes, it does look like that Ukrainians are already crossing the river. But what if we go even further from there? What if those Ukrainians who landed behind enemy's lines in Kinburg Spit will continue their advancement across the rest of Kherson region, while simultaneously receiving the artillery support from their comrades from the right side of Dnipro river? And in addition to that, Ukrainians will obviously continue to push from the north and try to cross the river, which basically means that those remaining Russians on the left bank of Dnipro are at risk of being encircled unless they retreat right now. And potentially because of this, we have several reports saying that Russians started evacuating their very important people from Nova Kakhovka. And speaking about this city, Russians once again tried to destroy Kakhovka hydropower plant, and it's them, and fortunately it did not suffer any severe damages. And so, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russian forces are withdrawing from the left side of Dnipro river, and they retreat as far as to Melitopol. In addition to that, they mobilized the local men in Melitopol and forced them to build defensive constructions and dig trenches, which pretty much means that Russians are subconsciously ready to give up the rest of Kherson region, and we have the next major battle of the south coming, which will be the battle for Melitopol. And speaking about this city, today Russians removed their flags from the main city square, allegedly to repair the flagpoles. And I don't know about you, but I think that something similar happened in Kherson literally 1 week before the liberation. And before I give you a very quick update from the east, let's just quickly see some couple more photos and videos. First of all, in this video we can see the bird's eye view of the legendary Chernobyevka airport. And as you can see, it is full of Russian destroyed military vehicles. Then we go a little bit to the west, to the city of Odessa. And as you can see, there has been a big fire in the seaport. Our next stop brings us all the way across the country to Belgorod. And as you can see right here, reportedly a Russian military object has been destroyed. Next we go to Borodyanka, which is located in Kiev region, where legendary street artist Banksy left his graffiti on one of the destroyed buildings. And now let's see something funny. So you remember this Wagner defense line in Luhansk region, right? These are basically these concrete pyramids called the Dragon Teeth, which responsibility is to stop the advancement of military vehicles. And then in this video we can see Ukrainians demonstrating the effectiveness of Wagner Line, which is close to zero. And then finally, here's a little bit of first-person combat action from Donetsk region. Today I have many more videos which I'm not allowed to show on YouTube. That is why I uploaded some of them to my Discord, and the rest will be available on my Patreon. And if you want to see these prohibited videos, the links will be down below. Alright, and here is your very quick update from the east. First of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Ukrainians continue their a counteroffensive in Svatovo-Kreminna region. And at the same time, the main concentration of Russians was next to Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Vuhledar. And then this map, which shows us the most significant fighting in the last 24 hours, pretty much confirms previously made statement. In the last several days, Russians were able to advance a little bit closer to Pavlivka. And according to the main infiltrator in Donetsk region, Denis Pushilin, Russians control 90% of Pavlivka. He also mentioned that this is going to be a major victory for the Russian army, completely neglecting the fact that Ukrainians took the whole north of Kherson region. Russians were also able to advance a little bit to the west of Donetsk region and capture a little bit more land around Marinka. And at the same time, Ukrainians were able to fully liberate Makiyevka, which is, as you can see, is one step closer towards retaking Svatovo. And according to the General Staff of Ukraine, Russians are preparing the evacuation from Svatovo, Kreminna and Rubizhne. And as you already know, such quote-quote evacuations is basically the one final step before Ukraine's counteroffensive. So let's see, maybe Ukraine will be simultaneously victorious both in the south and in the east in the nearest future. Because ultimately we have another ridiculous explanation by Russians why they're retreating and withdrawing. And this time, and I'm almost quoting them, is that the success on the battlefront allows the Russian forces to move further away from the front lines. And the closest synonym for this will be victoriously retreating. If you want to support my work, please consider becoming my channel member, use a PayPal link or become my Patreon, where you will receive additional content. All the useful links can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи, and see you tomorrow.